Hey listeners, co-parenting during the holidays with someone who abuses alcohol can be emotionally draining and far more taxing than just the seasonal expenses. Amidst the present wrapping and the hot cocoa pouring, you might find yourself constantly worrying about your kids' safety when they're with their other parent. As a co-parenting expert, I've worked with many parents facing the same dilemma, and one tool I often recommend is SoberLink. SoberLink lets you know immediately when your co-parent is drinking. It's a high-tech breathalyzer designed to prove sobriety during parenting time. Your co-parent tests at scheduled times throughout the day. Built-in facial recognition makes sure it's them. Tamper sensors flag any cheating attempts, and the results are sent directly to your phone or email so you can be confident your kids are with a sober parent. The holidays are stressful enough, so let SoberLink alleviate some of that anxiety. Visit www.soberlink.com/dilemmas to learn more and get $50 off your device. And this is a form of alienation. It's legal alienation, right?
Oh, wow. Yes.
But it doesn't hurt less. And he doesn't have any options. Like he can't call an attorney and say, we need to go to court and I need to get parenting time with my stepdaughter. She's saying, you don't have a right. And I don't want my daughter seeing you anymore because I'm over here making a new family.
Yeah.
And that's it was just so heartbreaking to read this. He has guilt that he didn't stay.
Uh-huh.
And I think even biological parents who are being alienated probably go through similar feelings, don't you?
I do. Yes.
Maybe I should have stayed. It would have been toxic for me, but at least I could have been there, been in my child's life. They have no idea until they pull the trigger that it's going to kill them.
Right. Yep.
Hey, this is Diane Dirks.
And I'm Rick Voiles.
We've been working with co-parents in conflict for more than 2 decades. We've taught classes, written books, counseled parents, empathized, and agonized a few times to help people make sense of their complicated families.
We were talking one day, and it occurred to us that helping the most difficult cases comes down to one simple concept. Is one parent willing to let go of the tug-of-war rope, or is it worth it to hold on and fight?
So we invite you to take this journey with us each episode as we tackle the questions, should you hold on or let it go? Welcome to Co-Parent Dilemmas, where we give you practical solutions to those impossible co-parents. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Diane.
We are not impossible.
Yes, we are. And we've worked hard at it. Let's put it that way.
It's taken a while. We've been doing this, for 3 years?
Yeah. Did you think when we first started this, when you came up with this idea that it would go this far?
No, I remember you and I talking, thinking, oh, maybe it'll last a year and then we're going to run out of things to talk about.
Right. Yes.
Now I'm realizing there's endless possibilities of what we can talk about. But that's okay. I have enjoyed it more than I thought that I would. And that's
me too.
Partially because of you. So thank you for being my podcast partner.
Same here. Yeah. Enjoy it so much.
Yeah. So anything new going on with you?
We actually are coming up on a celebration for Janet's youngest daughter's marriage.
Oh, nice.
So we're getting some family together and doing some and right now this is big deal because they live in Canada. So it's going to be pretty special.
Cool. On my end, my daughter texted me yesterday and then texted me again and then called me. And I had my phone on silent because I had a few appointments yesterday, but I'm very guilty of not taking my phone off silent. She finally calls my husband and said, "Is mom okay?" Because I'm texting her. And then I felt bad. 9:00 at night, I finally called her. But what she wanted to tell me is she passed her licensing exam. She is now an official MSW.
All right.
Which for our listeners, that means she's following in my footsteps, which I did not encourage her to do. But she's a natural in helping people. And so she is going to be, she just started doing her own therapy with clients, and that's amazing. So I'm very proud of her. Yeah. So I think she always had trouble taking tests from the time she was first grade. I remember talking to teachers about how she would get this test anxiety. So for her, it was particularly exciting to call me when I didn't answer the phone all day to say, I did the test. I finished the test. I passed the test. I'm now official and I can stop being so anxious about taking this test. So I hope that she's done with test taking in her life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway. Okay. Today we got an email from Tanner and it really worked on my heartstrings. I don't know. What about you, Rick, when you read it?
Yes, definitely.
And it's something that we don't talk about a lot, but it is fairly common. And I think that these parents kind of get left in the dust. We talk about alienation, and, we always feel so bad for the parents who are being alienated. But the one thing that those parents have going for them that Tanner does not is that they have a legal right to go to court.
Yes.
Tanner is the non-biological parent of a child who he's been with her for 12 years, and mom and he are splitting, and mom is saying, you can't talk to her anymore. You have no rights. And it's really tough.
It is.
Because in his mind, and probably in her mind, this is my dad.
Exactly.
So, Rick, why don't you read Tanner's email?
Yes. Diane and Rick, I've been listening to your show for a while now. I haven't heard you talk about non-biological parents who have a close relationship with the kids. I met my ex when her daughter was only 6 months old. Her dad was not really in the picture. He came in and out of her life over the years, but now that I have experienced my ex's toxic behavior, I think I understand why he probably stayed away. I have been the only father our daughter has really known. Her mom and I separated last year and now are divorcing, and the craziness has accelerated. I know I have no legal rights to our daughter, who is now 12, but her mom won't let me talk to her or see her, saying I am not her legal parent. But I know my daughter misses me. She really broke down on the day I left. I now regret that I didn't stick around with her mom because at least I could have seen her through the difficult teen years. I feel like I have abandoned her, even though I know I didn't. My heart is so broken. Is there anything I can do to make this right with this child? If she doesn't have a normal parenting influence, she's going to go down the wrong path. How do I deal with this guilt? Thanks for your help.
Where's the tissue box?
I know. Yes. Yes.
And so, yeah, like, when you and I used to teach the classes in the courthouse, occasionally I would get a mom or a dad. Mostly it seemed like it was dads that would come up to me and go, okay, I was the stepdad, but I was the only dad.
Yeah.
And now that we're divorcing, she has a boyfriend now or something now, she doesn't want me around anymore. She wants the new boyfriend and I'll be the new dad. But the child is now old enough where the child doesn't want a new dad. The child liked the dad that they had, right?
Right.
And this is a form of alienation. It's legal alienation, right?
Oh, wow. Yes.
But it doesn't hurt less. And he doesn't have any options. Like he can't call an attorney and say, yeah, we need to go to court and I need to get, parenting time with my stepdaughter. Occasionally in my career, just a very less than a handful of times, I've seen Child Protective Services step in and maybe take a child from a biological parent, and the step parent may be the reasonable choice, right, for the parent to take over. That's pretty rare, I think, or at least it's been in my experience. But this is not an abuse case. He can't say that mom's abusing the child and he needs to take care of the child. She's just saying, you don't have a right. And I don't want my daughter seeing you anymore because I'm over here making a new family.
Yeah.
And that's just, it was just so heartbreaking to read this. He has guilt that he didn't stay.
Uh-huh.
And I think even biological parents who are being alienated probably go through similar feelings, don't you?
I do. Yes.
Maybe I should have stayed. It would have been toxic for me, but at least I could have been there, been in my
Abs-
child's life. They have no idea until they pull the trigger that it's going to kill them.
right. Yep.
So I want to speak to this a little bit because I do want to give Tanner some hope. And, we're all about hope, right?
Every chance we get. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to start with talking a little bit about what happened to the biological dad, who could have been more involved than he was.
Mm-hmm.
I also know, I remember a particular case that I was involved in once where the dad came back and wanted time with the daughter who was 10, and he hadn't seen her since she was a baby, and it was the biological father. And, the big question I had was, because I was appointed to try to reunify them, and mom was appalled, like over all these years, 10 years, and, she's got a stepdad she's connected to. Now you want to come back? And I get that too. Like, where have you been?
Yeah.
But I remember him telling me this, and I don't know how true it was, but it made logical sense to me. I said, why? Why now? Why did you wait this long? He said, because she's the kind of mom who I could already see the writing on the wall who was going to end up accusing me of sexual abuse just to get me out. And I knew my daughter didn't have a voice. And I knew that she would probably try to convince my daughter that I did something like that to her. And I was just scared.
Yeah.
And I decided that I will wait till my daughter is old enough to have a voice, and then I will come back. You can judge that, but I don't think it's for us to judge, because maybe he was right.
Yeah.
Maybe he knew it would be, he'd end up in prison. He didn't know.
Right.
I think he probably could have handled things differently. He probably could have stayed in touch with her over the years, maybe without spending overnights with her. He could have reduced the risk of that and still made. So, there's that. But I remember that hitting me in a certain kind of way. Like, we judge parents that go away, but oftentimes they go away because staying could be worse.
Yes.
So I want to encourage Tanner to not spend a lot of time second guessing himself. For whatever reason, staying with this mom was untenable in his mind. And he maybe assumed wrongly that she was going to allow him at least communication. He may have known he couldn't get official parenting time, but that maybe she would let him every once in a while hang out with the daughter, right? Or at least talk to her on the phone. Sounds like he was pretty shocked that mom just shut it down completely.
Yeah. And I want to add, of course, nobody knows the future. Had he stayed, I'm not sure you could really say that had I stayed, things would have been better for the daughter. Because part of that is, so now he's consciously staying and he knows this is bad for him. The daughter's really not getting all of him if he's miserable. So I don't know that it might not have been the pretty picture you think it would have been had you stayed. I realize it's probably a better picture than the one you have now.
Sure.
But now's not over. There's still some more possibilities here.
And what is the probability that mom did to the first dad what she's doing to the second dad?
Oh, very high.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
When I first read this, he said the dad was never around, or he came in and out of her life. She may have made it so miserable for the first dad to be in the daughter's life that he just ended up giving up because it's so hard to be rejected,
Right.
And so there's probably a pattern here. My concern for the daughter is she's going to hook up with, number 3. And if that doesn't go his way and he leaves, the daughter then loses again. The perpetual grief that this child has to deal with is, men leave me. And that does not bode well for her in relationships later on. And so I know that's not what you want to hear, Tanner, because that's negative, but it's it's the truth. And I think your last sentence when you said she's going to go down the wrong path if she doesn't get a normal parenting influence, I agree with you that she is more likely. Will she? Absolutely. We don't know. Maybe you taught her such great things while you were there.
Yeah.
And she probably knows in her heart that you didn't do what you think she thinks you did. You think she thinks you abandoned her.
Right.
It's 12.
Mm-hmm.
I would say she probably has mom's number.
Yeah, she
What
has
do you
some. Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes,
She's
exactly.
witnessed this at some level. And if you, Tanner, were a guy of integrity, I would bet a large amount on the fact that she knows you and knows her mom. She's going to be loyal to her mom because this is her mom,
Yep.
but she's probably not thinking about you what you think she's thinking. And even if mom's telling her bad things about you at age 12, she's probably going, no, I know him.
Yes.
I don't know if she was calling him dad. He doesn't say, but I just don't know how a mom can deny a child that significance in their life.
Well, it does. Yeah, it does say something about the mom that she's at least this either or kind of thinker. It's either all or nothing.
Right.
And if you're going to, if you're going to leave me, then I'm going to punish you terribly. And the best way to punish you is to hit you where you care the most, and that's the daughter.
Right. And he doesn't say who left who or, who filed for divorce or any of that, but which is inconsequential at this point. But I agree with you. Maybe this is her way of getting back at him for leaving her. I don't know. Now, similarly, I remember getting questions from people that would say, and again, I feel like this came more from dads than moms, but would say, okay, I'm getting a divorce from my wife. I have stepchildren, we've had a good relationship. I don't know what to do now. I'm leaving the home. I don't know how much I should try to stay in touch with my stepchildren.
Yeah.
And I always would say to them, even though you don't have legal rights, you have been an emotional presence in those children's lives. And you're going to get a special place in heaven if you just stay in contact.
Yes.
Because kids can feel abandoned if, oh, you only liked me because you were married to my mom and now you're gone. I'm meaningless.
Yeah.
They can go to that place. Not always, depending on their ages and how long you've been with them, and all of that matters. So take into those things into the context. But I always said to parents, don't underestimate the value you had in their lives, even if you didn't feel like it was an overly close relationship. It's always going to help the child for you to check in now and then and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. I kind of miss hanging out with you. That's going to be so valuable to them because to them, that means I was special, separate and apart from my other parent, from my biological parent. I had meaning. There was something about me that this person that lived with me for many years or several years, something about me they thought was important enough to check in with me. Hey, how you doing? I know this divorce probably has hurt you, and I just wanted to check in as a teenager. Hey, you want to go grab some lunch? Or, just letting them know, hey, I'm still here for you. If you have an issue, give me a call. Because when you sign up to be a step parent, it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, I'm hanging out with, these are my roommates. These are children that you're sort of taking on, saying, you're not parenting them necessarily. Again, depending on their ages, you leave the parenting mostly to the biological parent, but you are an influence, an adult influence in their lives that's probably more important than you believe it is.
Yeah.
Even if the kids just grunted at you.
Yeah.
Hey, and that was it. Don't underestimate the fact that they still saw you as an adult in their life and they want you to care about them. So I just want to throw that out there to step parents who are wondering, should I communicate with my stepkids going forward after a divorce?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, so it seems to me that one of the emotional difficulties that Tanner is having is this fear. And I want to ask you this question. There's a fear that because I left, okay, the daughter's going to think I abandoned her, and she's not going to ever want to see me again.
Mhm.
What are the chances, do you think, that even if she doesn't get to see him for 12, 13, when she turns 13, 14, or 15, what are the chances that she's never going to want to see him again?
Well, I think so much of that, just like alienation cases, depends on how mom is framing this.
Hmm.
If mom is saying to her, this is why we got a divorce, he cheated on me, he's no good, he's this, he's that, who knows what she's saying about the step parent. I don't know, maybe he did cheat. It doesn't really matter what he did. That doesn't take away the fact that the child felt,
Yeah.
something for
Close
him.
to him. Yeah.
Unless he was abusing the child, people make mistakes, and that doesn't mean his fatherhood is now, null and void because mom doesn't like him anymore. But if mom is framing it that way, the child may get very confused and think, well, maybe he was a bad person. Maybe I was wrong for thinking he was a good person. And maybe I should go along with what mom says. But again, at this age, and I'm proud of you, Tanner, for staying as long as you did, if it was
Yes.
that toxic. She's now at an age where she can think more for herself. She can think more abstractly. She can say, well, mom's saying that, but I didn't really see that. She would have been more vulnerable if she would have been 7, 8 years old.
Yes.
Now
Absolutely.
that she's 12, a little bit less vulnerable to mom's opinion. And I wish you could talk to her, because you could do all the wonderful things that we say to do and say, does that sound like something I would do? Or, I'm sorry you had to hear that. You're going to have to judge me by what you know about me. All of those wonderful responses we tell parents to make when a child says, mom's saying this about you. What do I do with that? He doesn't even have that opportunity, which is
No.
really where this feels so much like alienation. He's scared to death probably of what mom is telling the child about him. What kind of lies is she telling? you know, and the same lies maybe she told about the biological dad, right?
Yep.
And maybe the kid's going, gee, what's wrong with my mom? She picks these losers.
Yes.
And maybe we hope she's thinking, okay, there's a pattern here.
Right. Uh-huh.
Mom's the one that's always the victim of these people I actually like. And you hope that what wins out is the child kind of thinking for herself. But this is also an age where she's not going to stand up to her mom necessarily.
Oh, no.
She's
Oh, no.
probably going to say, well, okay, and mom might be saying, he didn't have any rights. He can't fight for you, and that would be very sad, but it's likely that that's what she's kind of saying to her daughter.
So I guess I want to try to find some hope here in the emotional capital that has been built up.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are several things, Tanner, that you can do. If the divorce is still pending, I would talk to your attorney if you have one. If you don't, try these things on your own, but it's a little bit more difficult on your own. Let's say you go to mediation. You might make it part of the mediation as a bargaining tool that I will do that if you at least allow me to have some contact with our daughter. I don't need to have her spend weekends at my house, but I would like to be able to talk to her on the phone. I would like to be able to do a FaceTime with her now and then. I'd like to be able to send cards to her or whatever, knowing that she's going to get them. I would sort of hold my ground on that, because I really believe, Rick, that if this got before a judge and he was able to testify and show his emotion about this and say, I've really been her dad all these years, and I would just like to be able to stay in contact with her. I can't imagine a judge not saying, yeah, that's probably best for the child. Now, I'm not an attorney. I don't know if there's any legal standing for that. But I've seen a lot of things in court orders that aren't necessarily part of the law. It's just what, a judge thinks is best for a child.
Right. I would definitely go that route.
So
yes.
I would at least inquire about that. Is
Yes.
that a possibility? That I'm not asking for parenting time. I'm just asking to be able to communicate, because I don't want her to feel abandoned by the only dad she's really ever known.
Yes.
And I think that could be something. Now, whether or not mom, abides by that order is yet another thing. I also think some of the things, that we've told alienating parents to do that are important is once a month, sit down and write her a letter and say, I can't talk to you. I'm not allowed to talk to you, but this is what's going on in my life. I think about you every day. Send it to yourself. Don't open it. Someday, when you hand her a box of letters that you wrote to her monthly, she may change her mind about what was going on.
Yep.
And I know that's playing the long game, that maybe when she's 18, 20, 22 years old and hasn't talked to you for years, you don't know how healing that could be for her. For her to think, all these years I've been thinking he didn't care about me. He just left me. Now I realize, and I know a lot can happen between now and that time that you're worried about. You're worried she's going to act out as a teen, maybe hook up with the wrong kind of guys. All of that's scary stuff and worthy of concern, right? But again, there's so little at this point that you can do. Now, I know, Rick, when you and I were prepping for this episode, you said something about, well, what about, can he just drop by her school? And, parents are allowed to, the problem with that is mom probably is going to make sure he is not on any kind of visit list at the school. Right?
Yeah.
Can't pick her up. He's not allowed to see her. Mom may even, tell a tale of a restraining order. Mom would get a restraining order against him if he tried to see the daughter. So, those thoughts pop into your head, but I want you to realize who you might be dealing with. Now, he could try that. He could try to see if he can see her on the playground and just say, hey, I just wanted us to say a proper goodbye to you, and whatever your mom is telling you, I'm not doing those things, or I still do think about you and want you to know that I'll always be thinking about you. And then mom gets the restraining order. I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't want to advise someone to do something that's going to put the child back in the middle of the adult conflict. But depending on the situation, you're going to have to decide for yourself what makes sense for you, what's best for the child in this type of situation. And it's tough.
Yes, it is.
It's really, really tough. And, last week, or one of our latest episodes, and we talked about the dental issue, right? And we're like, go to court, don't go to court, whatever. We say these things, but now we've got this situation and we can't even say go to court.
No.
We can suggest that maybe he brings it up in court, but her attorney may say he doesn't have any rights. Like, why are we even talking about this? Right?
I would still try, though.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Or, even say, I'd like to send a final letter to her explaining that I'm not abandoning her and that, I still think about her. I don't know, something like that. Let's just say, for instance, that he is allowed to see her one more time, or, there are situations where you're going to be leaving, and maybe you anticipate that your partner has said, if you leave me, you'll never see our kid again. Or, one of the things that you can do before you leave is to say something like, I don't know what the future is going to bring. I'm not your biological parent. I hope we can stay in touch, but I don't know if that's going to be allowed. But I absolutely want you to know that you've been a very important person in my life, and I will never forget you. And I don't want you to feel abandoned by me. And here's a token, give him a piece of jewelry or something, some memento, and say, I want you to have this. And when you're feeling down or thinking about me, I want you to take it out and look at it or hold it. Because I want that to remind you that just because I'm leaving your parent, I'm not feeling like I need to leave you, or something like that. Things like that, especially for younger children, can be extremely valuable for them to understand that this adult stuff's really complicated, but don't let anybody tell you that I don't care about you.
Yes.
This was not about you, but it's putting you in a bad position, and I'm sorry, kind of thing. I think anybody anticipating something like what Tanner is going through would do well to do that. I think Tanner just didn't realize that once he left, he was never going to be able to talk to her again.
Yeah, gosh.
And, at 12, does she have a phone?
Right. Right.
Maybe,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm sitting here trying to think of devious ways that
Oh, I
he
have
can,
thought of some devious ways. Yeah.
and at the same time, though, every devious thought I have to think, well, what happens if mom discovers that? And how does that cause the child to have to be in the middle of the fight?
So
You
so here's
know,
the devious thought I had. My one of the questions I would ask is, what is his relationship with the biological dad? Is it bad? Is it somewhat decent? Could he improve it? Because
what,
they might be able to
yeah,
do things together.
that's a good idea. I hadn't even really thought about that, Rick. You are smart. That's
No, not
amazing.
devious.
Yeah, when you get devious, you get smart. Well, here's what I think based on his email. It kind of makes me feel like he bought everything mom said about the dad up
Okay.
until he left mom and had experienced her toxic behavior. Then he left her. Then he started going, I wonder whether or not mom was telling me the truth about the bio dad, whether or not, you know, now I feel maybe more of an affinity toward dad.
Right.
So there could be a possibility that he could contact that dad and say, hey, listen, I don't tell me your side of the story. And dad might be a jerk and maybe there's no possibilities there. But he
Yeah.
might get an earful from dad who said, yeah, you know what? I really wanted to have a relationship with my daughter, but it became impossible. And I felt like every time I tried, it hurt the daughter. And I just decided I'll wait till she's an adult. That happens a lot.
Yes.
And I'm not one to judge that because you know your situation best. I wish it didn't have to happen. I wish a parent would still stay in contact, but parents do make that decision. That the stepdad could capitalize on that and say, well, here's what I'm trying to do. Maybe if we kind of partner up, maybe you could go back to court and see if you could get more time with the child. For all we know, the dad does have current time that he's just
Right.
not using.
Yeah.
And the stepdad could hook up with the bio dad and say, well, when you have her, do you mind if I come over and talk with her?
Sure. All three go to
Yeah.
dinner, have pizza,
Yeah.
something.
The
Yeah.
problem again is you have to be careful about
Right.
what accusations mom is going to make that's going to put the daughter in the middle and try to get another restraining order against the bio dad. Who knows? It
Yeah.
depends on how toxic she is where this would go. So the bio dad may say, nope, sorry buddy, feel your pain, but I'm not getting involved in that again.
Exactly.
I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to go to jail.
Uh-huh.
I don't want a record. I'm just trying to live my life over here. I'm sorry I got involved with that chick. So there's all kinds of ways that could play out, but that's a possibility, Rick. That you could see what, now that it could be that he has no idea how to get in touch with his dad. Maybe he's that far gone and he hasn't been around for years but I think these days we can almost find anybody if we want to, if we're willing to pay to find them.
Yeah.
So, I guess the way I want to leave this with Tanner is you're probably not doing to her what you think you're doing.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't have been better if you stayed. It just would have been a different set of problems.
Yes.
The daughter would have had to witness the two of you fighting more, or maybe more toxic behavior than she needed to be witnessing. And I'm really counting on her 12-year-old brain. Having known you for 12 years of her life, that's significant. She's learned values from you. This is not when she's learning her values. Those are set by the time she's 6, 7 years old. Right? That she has watched you and learned from you. And I want you to kind of take heart with that. Do find some way to kind of let her know that you still care about her if you can, but be careful because doing that might create another worse problem for her. So you have to really think that through. How can I do this so that I'm not hurting her in a different kind of way?
Yeah.
So you may hook up with a therapist near you. I think you ought to sit down and talk with someone about the guilt that you're feeling and try to work through some of that and give that person more of your story. And maybe they can help you through some of things, help you figure out what you can do that will also be protective of the child.
Yeah, I can appreciate the guilt. And I love the therapy advice, at least to get you through the guilt stuff, because don't underestimate the daughter's need for you to be strong through this. for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. And even though I firmly believe that somewhere down the road, she's going to completely see the writing on the wall and you're going to get a phone call someday, I do understand how worried you are between now and then because of the stage of development that she's in. And all she has now is watching her mom's revolving door of men.
Yeah.
And what that is going to do to her as a young woman. So,
yep.
So yeah, go talk to somebody. Tell them more of the story. We're only going on this one paragraph that you sent us. So tell them more of the story and get advice and help from someone who understands the court system, who understands divorce, who understands these kinds of issues. If you don't know who that is, I always say go to afccnet.org, afccnet.org, where people like Rick and I get trained to work with these high conflict situations. And those are, it's going to give you a list of therapists who are more likely to be trained in these areas that can give you good advice. If you go to some therapist who has no idea what we're talking about, they might not give you good advice. So
yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, very much.
Anything else you want to add?
No. Okay. Nope.
Thank you so much, Tanner, for your email. It broke my heart, but I still see hope.
Me too. Hope.
Okay. All right. We'll talk to you all next week.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. The information contained in this podcast is generic. It must not be misconstrued as constituting legal or psychological advice. Decisions relevant to any specific individual, family system, or case require the direct evaluation of skilled, child-centered professionals.